Oh no, it's the thing that reluctant writers fear the most, the blank Word document. I've got to write a paper for my college class, but I don't know how to begin. Well, fear not, young acolyte. I'm going to teach you how to write a research paper in MLA format so that your professor will give you a good grade and your parents will be so proud. Don't know what to write about? Well, the best thing to do is start putting them fingers on them keypads. So let's start typing. The heading is a good place to start because that doesn't require too much thinking. You're going to need your name, your instructor's name, the class name, and the date that the assignment's due. And all of this is relevant information, and as I type it, I'll explain why. Okay, before we do our heading, I need to make something absolutely perfectly clear. There's a difference between the heading and the header. The header is up here in the top part of the page. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. The header is the inch of space at the top of the virtual paper where you type information that you want on every single page of your essay. The heading does not go inside the header. The heading goes at the top of the first page only. So you'll type your name. Please give your given name or whatever name is located on your college application, because the college professor does not want to try to figure out who you are, and if your nickname is JoJo, they're not going to be able to put it in the grade book. Okay, for the sake of honesty, I'm going to use my actual name just to prove a point. The rest of you, please call me Mr. Bryson when you're addressing me. I'm not ready to be called by my first name with you guys just yet. All right, the next line in your heading should be your instructor's name. Now, people go by lots of names, and if you're unsure of what to put, typically you would put like professor or doctor followed by their last name. I am neither a doctor nor a professor, so I'll go by Mr. Bryson. It's a good idea to ask your instructor in college how they would like to be referred to. Also, another thing to consider is sometimes a college might have two professors with the same last name. So they might go by a first initial, or they might allow for their first name to be put. Now, why is it that we put the name of the instructor on the essay that you're turning in? Well, it's because you're turning it in. Let's say you had to print it out and turn it in, but I don't know, you got distracted by a squirrel on campus and you accidentally left your essay on a park bench, or maybe you left it in the computer lab and it's not going to get to the professor. Well, let's say somebody finds that printed out essay and they see a proper heading on it. Well, they have a choice. They could either track you down, which is near impossible, or they can just go by the instructor's name. Every college professor has a mailbox on campus, and everybody has access to it. So if somebody found your essay, they might do you a solid and take your essay and put it in your professor's mailbox. So having your professor's name on the actual essay will help that your essay never gets lost. All right, the next piece of information in your heading should be the name of the class. The reason that you need to put the name of your class is pretty obvious. Your instructor might have more than one class. Maybe they're teaching, English 1301 and World Literature 1405. They need help in keeping your essays organized. So if you let them know what class you're in, it's going to help your professor know what stack to put your paper. And then the last piece of information you need is the due date. Don't put the date that you finished the essay. Don't put the date that you started the essay. Put the date that the essay is due. The reason you would do this is because sometimes your college professors, the only reason they know what essay it is they're grading is because of the date on it. If you're going to write 5 essays for one semester, they need to know the date of that essay, which would be the date that you were supposed to turn it in. That way they know exactly what they're supposed to be grading. All right. And then another consideration is that we have to write our date in international style. International style, for those of you who've studied Spanish, is day, then month, then year, which is different from how we do it in America. America does it month, day, comma, year. The reason we do it that way, I have no idea, except for that we're stubborn Americans. Internationally, it makes kind of sense that you would do the smallest increment of time, the day, followed by a slightly larger increment of time, the month, and then the year. No comma is necessary, and you must spell out the entire month. No abbreviations. Once you've done those 4 pieces of information, you have written a correct heading. Good job. We're off to a great start. All right, the next thing in your MLA formatted research paper should be a title. Now, titles are kind of tricky. Like sometimes you don't know what your title is until you're done actually finishing your essay. Never put the purpose or the name of your assignment as the title of your paper. The title of your research paper should be the content of the research paper. Now, since I don't know what my content is, I'm going to use the title of the question I am trying to answer with my research paper. And then if I want to, I can change it later. Observe. Okay, so title. Well, the question I'm going to be trying to answer with my research paper is Beowulf a Viking? Now, notice I've capitalized the first letter and the last letter. For the title, that's always the case. If it's your title should always have the first word and the second word capitalized. And then you want to capitalize any other major words, like the word Beowulf. That's the name of the title character, so it gets a capital B. The word A is a small word and not that important, so it does not get a capital letter. Notice I am not putting any quotation marks around it. I'm not making it bold. I'm not underlining it, and I'm not changing its font. It's going to be the same font as all the rest of my essay. There's not going to be any extra spaces. And when I'm done typing my title, I'm going to hit enter one time, and then I'm going to stop centering. I don't want my entire essay to be centered like my title. I want it to be left justified, just like a normal essay. Now I'm ready to start my first paragraph. One more thing about the title. Notice that I used this button on Microsoft Word to center it. I did not hit the space bar or the tab button repeatedly until it looked like it might be centered. I used this button right here. Then, when I went to the next line where my essay's first body paragraph is going to be, I went back to align left. Now, again, I'm ready for my first paragraph. All right. Since it's a paragraph, I need to indent. The way to indent is to press the tab button one time. Did you see how my cursor moved? I didn't hit the space bar and count to 5. I just hit tab one time. If your tabs are set up correctly, you never have to mess with them. So the default setting for tabs is what you need. It should be about 1/2 inch. Okay, now I'm answering the question, is Beowulf a Viking? So I need an introduction. Typically, for a research paper, I don't like to answer the question right away. So never start an essay with the answer. Yes, Beowulf is a Viking. That's a terrible start. You need to do an introduction first. And what does an introduction do? An introduction introduces the topic without actually answering the question. Here's my intro so far. Beowulf is an epic hero found in British literature, among other places. He is super strong, incredibly brave, and noble-hearted. He belongs to a tribe of Scandinavian warriors known as Geats, who occupied what is now known as Sweden. Although it is not known if there ever was a real person among the Geats named Beowulf during the 8th or 9th centuries, by the very definition of Viking, Beowulf, it's crazy. That's a Freudian slip. If he was ever real, would qualify as one. All right, that's an introduction, and I did, at the end of my introduction, answer the question, yeah, Beowulf is a Viking. But, I don't know, if I really want to build some credibility here, I probably need to name a source. I'm going to have to do some research. All right, this, boys and girls, is the internet. And I'm going to try to answer a question, so of course I'm going to use Google. Was Beowulf a Viking? Let's see what the internet has in store for us. All right, Beowulf is a poem written in Anglo-Saxon, which was a huge part of literature during that time period. Beowulf was identified as a Geat, which was a Viking culture that originated in Sweden. A Viking culture known as the Danes found in Denmark, blah, blah, blah. All right, this comes from a website called aquinasenior.wordpress.com/Viking code. Background on Viking culture. Let me check out to see if this is a legitimate website that I can use for information. Let's see. No author, no credibility. I'm going to keep looking. Bye. What's next? Okay, next is www.independent.co.uk. That sounds like an English website. Archaeology, Beowulf belongs to England after all. Then there's Wikipedia. Then there's Beowulf and Viking Qualities During Medieval Times by Bartleby. That's an actual essay, I think. Then there's Beowulf Ancient History Encyclopedia. I like them. I've used them before. And then there's eNotes. Prezi. No, do not use a Prezi. Newberry. Maybe. Etrusia. You know what? I'm going to Ancient History Encyclopedia. Let's see what they've got. Okay. According to Ancient History Encyclopedia, an article written by Wesley Fiorentino, that's good, a named author. Beowulf is an epic poem composed of Old English consisting of 3,182 lines. It is written, blah, 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 blah. Where does it say whether or not he's a Viking? The poem concerns the legendary figure Beowulf, a hero of the Geats, who were a North Germanic people inhabiting modern-day Götaland in southern Sweden. Beowulf fights a series of monsters and also rules as king of the Geats for approximately 50 years. Okay, so do I need to cite this? You know, what is it? Ancient History Encyclopedia? No, it's pretty common knowledge for anybody who's actually read Beowulf that Beowulf is a Geat, and everybody knows that the Geats lived in Scandinavia or Sweden or northern Germany. So I'm not going to need to cite this. Maybe I need to look up the definition of the word Viking. Go back to Google, type in the word Viking, and let me see if I can find a definition. Viking range, rivers and oceans. Boy, research sure is hard. Viking Wikipedia, Viking the world in comfort, Viking history, facts, and myths. Maybe if I just want a definition, maybe I should just type definition of. And see what comes up. All right. Now Mr. Bryson's already told me that definitions on Google are from Oxford English Dictionary. So according to the Oxford English Dictionary, any of the Scandinavian seafaring pirates and traders who raided and settled in many parts of northwestern Europe in the 8th through 11th centuries. Let me see here. Scandinavian, check. Beowulf is Scandinavian. 8th and 11th centuries, check. Beowulf lived in that time period, if he ever lived at all. Seafaring pirates and traders who raided and settled in many parts of northwestern Europe. Was Beowulf a raider? Well, if you haven't read the story yet, you don't know whether he was a raider or not. So just based on the fact that he's Scandinavian and lived in this time period, and we seem to lump all kinds of people from that region under the label Viking, I guess we can make the assumption that he is, in fact, a Viking. Now, how do I cite this? Maybe I like this definition from Oxford English Dictionary, and I want to use it in my research paper. Well, I need to make a citation for it. How do I get a citation from this? Let me see. Oh, here's a link. Let me click on it. Oxford Languages, Spanish, English, I guess English. Google English Dictionary is provided by Oxford Languages. Oxford Languages is the world's leading dictionary publisher, blah, 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 blah. How do I get a citation? Let me see. Nope. 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 Lots of stuff here, but I don't see anything that I can use for a citation. Oxford University Press. Okay, let me see. I need a resource that'll help me come up with a proper citation. Citing the Oxford English Dictionary. Maybe this will help. All right. Oh, here's a website from oed.com that explains how to cite the Oxford English Dictionary. Okay. It takes me to this. It says preview citation in drop-down menu. I want MLA 8. What's my format? See, I don't even know. Oh, well, here we go. This one is for the definition of the word anatomy. oedonline.oxforduniversitypress.june2020.www.oed.com/view dictionary entry/entry 7179, and then there's some stuff, and then it even gives me today's date. Okay, at this point I learned that Oxford English Dictionary is not as accessible as you might think. Like, they want you to join and stuff like that, and there's probably fees involved. So if if you don't want to, join Oxford English Dictionary, you could easily just go to like the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, which is free and offers citation help as well. The important thing is that you get the right citation and the right information, and if you can't get it from one place, then you need to just keep looking and get it from someplace else. Probably the hardest part of research is, making sure that you're citing everything correctly, but it's a necessary step, and it's how we prevent plagiarism and academic fraud. So it's not something to be taken lightly. If you ever have any questions, of course, I'm here as a resource, and don't give up. I'm going to skip on to the next part of the video. All right, I guess all I have to do is copy and paste this. Copy, or boom, and then I can go back to my essay. Okay, I've already done my citation though I haven't even used my source material, so I'm just going to skip down here and paste, Control V because it's Microsoft, and I have the beginnings of my citation. Now, what information from my source am I actually going to use? Wow, I need to think about that. Let me see. Let's go back to the source. Oh, here we go. And again, here's my definition. Let me make this bigger. Okay. So it says, any of the Scandinavian seafaring pirates and traders who raided and settled in many parts of northwestern Europe in the 8th through 11th centuries. All right, now I have to decide as a writer, do I want to quote this, or do I want to paraphrase it, or just put it in my own words? Let me think. All right, Scandinavian, that's good. I don't know if he was much of a raider, but he definitely settled, and he was definitely in Europe during the 8th and 11th centuries. So I think I'm going to put this in my own words. Now, where's my essay? Okay. So I'm going to write, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, a Viking is any Scandinavian settler of northern Europe during the 8th through, what was it, 11th centuries. All right, that works for me. I don't need quotation marks, and I don't need to write a parenthetical citation because I wrote according to Oxford Dictionary. Now, if I didn't write that, and I just made it a sentence on my own, a Viking is a Scandinavian settler of northern Europe during the 8th through 11th centuries, I then need a parenthetical citation because I just used information that I got from a source. So I could then put in parentheses the abbreviation for Oxford English Dictionary. That will let my reader know that when they go to my Works Cited page, they need to look for the Oxford English Dictionary resource as my source for the definition of a Viking. All right, is there anything else left that I need to say about Beowulf being a Viking? There actually is. I could do a really interesting research topic about how Viking is also a verb, meaning one who pillages and destroys, and that is actually in contrast with what Beowulf was like, but he never pillaged or destroyed anything. he usually just tried to help people. So you could make an argument that maybe Beowulf isn't a Viking, but I'm just trying to do an MLA practice over here. So I think I have enough information. Plus, for the expediency of not making a 3-hour-long video, I'm going to go ahead and move to the next step. All right, to review, I've pretty much written the body of my research paper. I introduced the topic, not by answering the question right away, but by, writing a sentence about my subject. Okay, then I delivered the answer to my question that yes, Beowulf is a Viking. And then I gave support. Now, I didn't write a bunch of paragraphs because, this isn't a true research paper. But if it was a true research paper and needed a 3-page requirement, then I would have to think of some other things to say. All right. Check. Let's move on to part 4. Sources. Well, that was probably the longest part of this process so far, was finding sources. I used the Oxford English Dictionary and decided that by definition, Beowulf is not a Viking. And then I used the Oxford English Dictionary definition of Viking in the body of my research paper to prove my point. And I gave them credit by using a parenthetical citation. Next, I need to come up with my works cited page. Just to be clear, I used a parenthetical citation. Inside the paragraph in which I answered the question, is Beowulf a Viking, I cited the Oxford English Dictionary, the source of my information. I did not leave that part out and then just intend to use it on the works cited page. The works cited page is separate and different. If I do not explain that my information came from the Oxford English Dictionary in my paragraph, I'm committing plagiarism, and that's bad. All right, my next step in finishing my research paper is to create my works cited page. And you may have noticed that I've already copied and pasted some citation information on my document. That's a good idea. You don't want to get to the end of your paper and then go back and look for all your sources of information, because who knows how long that could take. It's better to build your works cited page as you go. By the way, it is a Word document. You can make changes to it, and it's pretty easy. So now I'm going to do my works cited page, and I'm going to make sure that all this information is correct and formatted in MLA style. All right, like I said, I'm done with my research paper, even though it's incredibly short, but this is just practice. So I need to do my works cited page. I'm not worried about wasting paper because we live in a paperless society now, thanks COVID-19. So I'm not going to worry about all this white space and whether or not I'm recycling. I'm going to go to where the page break is, and I'm going to start my works cited page. All right, the first thing to do when you're creating a works cited page is you want to center the title, Works Cited. I did not. I used a capital W and a capital C. I did not make it bold. I did not underline it. I did not put it in quotation marks. I did not change the font size. I did not change the font. All I did was center the words Works Cited. I did not use substitute words. I just used Works Cited. The next thing for me to do would be to, in case I hadn't already, hit enter one time. And then, of course, I don't want my citations to be centered. So I'm going to go to my alignment tool on the toolbar and make it left justified again. Make sure that I'm on my far left side margin. And then I have this citation that I got from Oxford English Dictionary. I didn't use the word anatomy. I used the word Viking, which is a noun. This is my publication. Notice I don't have an author's name, so there's no named author. So I've got the title of my article, Viking noun. I've got my publisher, Oxford English Dictionary Online, Oxford University Press. This was published in June 2020 according to my source. I probably need to check that and make sure that it's correct. I've got my website. You need to put your URL. Do not put the http://. We know that part. Just start with the www.oed.com, blah, 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 blah. And then accessed, and then it's today's date. You have to have the word accessed in your MLA citation, followed by the date. Notice the date is done international style. Day, month, year. I believe in your citation, if you want to, you can abbreviate the month. And then it ends with a period. You have to have a period at the end of your citation. All right. Another thing we need is a hanging indentation. A hanging indentation is something special only done for citations. And it's a little bit tricky, so pay attention. Let me see. We're going to go to layout. And we're going to find special. I don't see it, so I'm just going to click this. Paragraph options. Okay, here are my paragraph options. I'm aligned left. I have spacing, which I will get into in a little bit later. I've got line spacing. And then I have indentation. Now, a hanging indentation is special. So I'm going to go to the special and click on the drop-down menu. And looky there, it's the word hanging. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to click OK. And look what happened. The first line of my citation is not indented, but every subsequent line of my citation is indented. That's the way a hanging indentation should look. Of course, if your citation is only one line long, then it doesn't matter if you're doing a hanging indentation. But for the most part, especially when you're using a website with a long web address, there's no reason why your citation should be less than or one line or less. So that's the way it's supposed to look. If I have another citation, I'll write it right below, and then I will make sure that they're in alphabetical order. Okay, I'm almost done. There's just a few things that I need to consider before I finish and turn this in. It turns out I have a lot of things left to do before I can turn this in. My paper is not in MLA format yet. I need to consider font, spacing, page numbers. For font, traditionalists might say that you have to use Times New Roman, but there have been changes to MLA, and other fonts are acceptable. But what is mandatory is that your font be size 12. So whether you're using Arial, Calibri, or Times New Roman, don't use Comic Sans. But any one of the approved fonts needs to be size 12. And if you're going to go with Times New Roman, everything has to be Times New Roman. If you're going to go with Calibri, everything has to be Calibri. You cannot mix and match your fonts. They all have to be uniform from the top of the header to the bottom of the footer. My spacing needs to be double spaced with no extra spaces, and I'll teach you how to avoid those pesky extra spaces. And then I'm going to need page numbers. I'm going to show you how to do all these right now. This might be the most important part of the video, so wake up! Okay, so I think I'm done writing, but if I turn this into Mr. Bryson right now, I'm going to fail. Mostly because I haven't gone through the trouble of making sure that my research paper is in MLA format. So I need to make sure that it's MLA format. The first thing I should notice, probably, is that my text font is way too small. Calibri is fine, but 11 is too small. So if I just switch over to size 12, nothing changes. Why is that? Because I didn't select anything yet. I need to highlight or select my entire essay, works cited included. Everything needs to be size 12. That looks better already. All right, I also need to make sure that everything is Calibri. If you highlight everything and it disappears, that means something in your essay is not Calibri or Calibri. So go ahead and make sure that you've chosen Calibri so that everything is uniform and nice. All right. Looking good, looking good. All right, the next thing is spacing. I'm supposed to have everything double spaced with no extra spaces. So let me see. I'm on Microsoft Word. Everything is already highlighted. So I'm going to choose Layout. And I could use shortcuts. For instance, let me see. What do we got? Indent, indent, spacing. Let's click there. Nothing happens. It's okay. Spacing before, what that means is how much space is added at the beginning of a paragraph. It's set to 0, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Now, spacing after is also supposed to be 0, but in Word, the default setting is 8. Let's see what happens if I change it from an 8 to a 0. Why, the spacing changed. What happens is if you go by the default setting, every time you hit enter, Microsoft Word assumes that you are starting a new paragraph, and they assume that you want extra space between those paragraphs. Well, we don't. We don't want any extra space. We want 0 here and we want 0 here. Now all we need to do is double space. Now I don't see a double space button. It's probably here, but it's not working for me right now for some reason. So I'm just going to go to the paragraph settings and choose options. And I'm going to make sure that my alignment is correct. I'm not going to change it because I have something centered and I don't want to change that. Now, line spacing, right now it says multiple. I don't want multiple. I want double. So I use the drop-down menu, click on double, click OK, and boom! Everything is spaced correctly. Everything on my header is double spaced. Notice if I go from the last line of my heading where the date is and I go down one time, I'm at my title. There's no extra space. I just hit enter one time and it's double spaced. Then if I go down from my title with my cursor, it goes down one line. There's no extra double spacing between the title and the first paragraph. It should all look uniform and beautiful like this. Now, since I'm done with my body paragraphs, I can decide whether or not I want to change my title. Right now, I have the working title is Beowulf a Viking, and it's okay to include a question mark, but don't put in any other kind of any other kind of punctuation. You don't need periods. You don't need exclamation marks. You don't need quotation marks. The only time you need a punctuation in a title would be if you're asking a question. Since it's okay to ask a question in the title, and since it's what my essay is about, I'm going to leave it like it is. I have my first paragraph indented, and it's double-spaced all the way through, no extra space. Everything is Calibri size 12. All right. I'm going to go ahead and read my paragraph over to make sure I don't have any incomplete sentences or fragments, and make sure that it makes sense. Okay, I read it, and it's pretty good. I think maybe I'll put a comma after the word Viking here. Okay, by the very definition of Viking, comma, Beowulf, if he was real, would qualify as one. All right, I've got my parenthetical citation. Now let me check to make sure my citation page is correct. I've got the word works cited, centered, and capitalized correctly. I've got my hanging indentation. I've got all the information that I need for my works cited citation. So I think I'm good to go. Wait a minute. I'm forgetting a page number. I need a page number in order for this to be MLA format. So let me see. If I was in Google Docs, I could just double click on the header and my cursor would appear here, but that's not working. So I need to insert. Notice I went to the toolbar and hit insert, and I have lots of options. I'm going to go to page numbers, and I'm going to look at my options. I want my page number to be at the top of the page on the right side, or right justified. When I click on it, okay, look what appears. I inserted page number, and I got less than hashtag greater than. That is computer code. It means that it's going to put the number of the page according to whatever page I happen to be on. Now, in MLA format, I'm supposed to write my last name in front of the page number. You, of course, will write your last name. My last name is Bryson, so I typed the word Bryson in front of it, and I put a space between the last letter of my last name and the less than symbol, because there needs to be a space between your last name and the page number. Okay, by doing this correctly, I ensure that if I printed this on a printer, or if I was looking at it on, say, I don't know, Teams, that this would say Bryson 1, and then the second page would have Bryson 2 in the same spot. Now, I can't see it on Microsoft Word because it's not Google Docs and it's not as good. But if I click on my header, I can see it there. Wait a minute, I almost made a huge mistake. I'm assuming that Microsoft Word used the correct font and size. I better double check. When I highlight it, the whole thing, number and last name, I see that yes, it is Calibri, but the size is wrong. The default setting for the page number size is 11. It needs to be 12. Notice the difference, because I will when I'm grading it. All right, so I have my page number, I have my heading, I have a proper title centered, I have a body paragraph, I have a parenthetical citation, I have an answer that makes sense, I have a works cited title on page 2. Is this page 2? Oh, I can move this up. the works cited should be the first, the works cited title should be the first line on the last page. I better make sure that I centered it correctly. No, I want centered. There we go. I've got my citation with all the information that is required, and it's done with a hanging indentation, and it ends with a period. This checks out. I think I'm finally finished with this assignment. So far, it's taken me 45 minutes to explain it to you, but I've been going painstakingly slow, detail by detail. The more you do it, the faster you'll get at doing it, and the easier it will be. So if everything checks out okay, I can save it. Oh, here's a good point. Do not call this MLA Practice. Well, I guess you could call it MLA Practice number 1, but do not call it your first name. Like when you save your document, don't call it English or Bryson, or don't call it by your name, because that's not specific enough. You might want to be able to go back to this file again. So the best thing to do is give it a name that fits what it's about. So either Beowulf is a Viking, or since it's not the title and it's the name of a file, MLA number 1 would be okay, unless it doesn't accept the hashtag as a proper... Oh, it accepted it. All right, so now when it's saved on my OneDrive or whatever, I know what this is. I don't have a bunch of documents called document, or called by my name, or called, by my date. It's an actual file name that I can refer to later in life. Okay, and whenever I have questions about how to do MLA format, my go-to source is not EasyBib. It is the Purdue University Purdue Online Writing Lab, or OWL, which knows everything there is to know about MLA formatting or APA. Whatever your question is, it has the answer. It is an amazing resource on how to do a citation, whether your citation is from an online source, a book, a lecture, a classroom visitation, everything. This covers it all, both APA and MLA. It's a wonderful resource. It's free and it's accessible to everybody. And Purdue is a very respectable university, so I highly recommend that you use it. Also, of course, if you ever have any questions, there's always me that you can contact, and I'll be happy to help you in any way. Hope that you find this video useful. Use it, press pause, go back and restart it. Use it as you're writing your assignment so that you make sure that you get every single detail accurate and correct. And good luck. I hope you get an A. I'll see you later. Bye. All right, now that it's saved, I can end and I can upload it onto wherever my instructor wants me to turn it in. Good job. You're sure to get 100.